Welcome to Building a Community of Readers and Writers with Biblionasium. Hi, y'all. My name is Mary Catherine Marston, and I am the librarian at Couch Elementary. This is my first year serving as the librarian. This is my first year serving as the librarian, and it is so much fun. I previously taught 5th grade math and science for 3 years and kindergarten at Beaver MST. I truly believe in meaningfully incorporating technology into the classroom and not just using it for the sake of using technology. Just to give you some background on the technology available at my campus for students is most classrooms have about 4 student computers, and we have multiple sets of iPad carts available for checkout. Okay. Our moderator today is Lucy Caceres Rodriguez. So you'll see her commenting and facilitating the chat, and that is to the right of your webinar video. Lucy is a 2nd grade bilingual teacher at Cooper Elementary. Okay. So here are some webinar tips. A webinar does have a slightly different format and feel just due to the fact that we are not face-to-face. So if you would, please take a moment to introduce yourself with your name, campus, and grade in the chat box to the right of the video. Throughout the webinar, I'll ask a few questions so that viewers can share ideas. I will pause after asking questions in order to give you some time to respond and so that I can read and discuss your answers. Additionally, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try to answer them throughout the webinar or at the end. Make sure you stick around all the way until the end to obtain your CPE credit. And at the end of the webinar, Lucy will post a link to the Google form for you to fill out. So this webinar will showcase how to use the website Biblionasium. Biblionasium is a free COPPA-compliant closed platform that allows students to safely track and share what they have read. Biblionasium can be accessed through a web browser on a computer or iPad. If you're familiar with the website Goodreads, Biblionasium is very similar, but it's just for kids. The website allows the teacher to monitor and track students' reading and for students to write book reviews, track their reading, and make book recommendations to classmates. Today, I will give you a basic overview of how to create your Biblionasium account, set up classes, and give you some ideas for how you can use it in your classroom. So what are some ways that you are currently tracking students' reading or helping your students to establish a community of readers? So currently, I'm about to begin using Biblionasium with a group of 5th graders as part of our book club. My hope is that this will be a way to launch our community of readers on campus and encourage authentic reading experiences. I know that, our kiddos learn best and are able to, really enjoy what they're reading when they get recommendations from other kids instead of just teachers and adults. So why Biblionasium? Using Biblionasium will encourage your students on their journey as empowered learners, which is directly aligned with the International Society for Technology and Education, or ISTE standards. And these are the standards that guide educators as we teach in our digital world. As educators, we want for our students to meaningfully use technology to demonstrate competency towards learning goals and the TEKS. So Biblionasium is a great way for students to demonstrate their learning and use technology to reflect on what they've read through critical writing. And all of this directly supports Garland ISD's technology focus for this grading cycle, which is formative assessment. Biblionasium is a great way for teachers to evaluate students' comprehension of what they have read through critical writing. Additionally, Biblionasium provides endless opportunities to reinforce digital citizenship. Through Biblionasium, students will need to use digital etiquette as they are creating digital content by making book recommendations and leaving book reviews. So in the next portion of this webinar, I will walk you through how to create your account, log in, and set up your classes. So the first thing that you would need to do is go to www.biblionasium.com. This website is easy to navigate and it's very visually appealing for teachers and for students. Okay. In order to create your account, you would click on the blue button in the top right-hand corner that says Join Us. Give me just a moment. Okay, the internet was running a little slow. So you would click on Join Us, select I am an educator, and then fill in your credentials and information as needed. I've previously created my account, so I'm going to select Login with Biblionasium, and it gives 3 options: student login, parent login, and educator's login. So today I'm going to log in with mine. So this is kind of what your main screen looks like after you log in as a teacher. The student portal does look very similar. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over some of the options on the right, or on the left, excuse me. So in order to create a class, you would select My Groups from the left-hand side. And then you would select the plus sign that says Add a New Group. And it does pop up with little hints. If you would like those, you can always deselect that if you feel like you've got the hang of it. Okay, so what you can do as you are adding your groups is you can select the reading system that you would like, whether that's Lexile or DRA or guided reading. Then you can name your group. You have to select a grade level. Unfortunately, it does not allow you to select multiple grade levels. And then the next most important part is your settings. Okay, so this first one is students can post custom recommendation messages. I'm going to leave that saying no. What that means is when students recommend a book to another one, to another student, they can either select from like a drop-down menu or they can type your own. Personally, at this point in the school year, I know my students are not ready for that, so I'm going to click no. I do want my students' book reviews to be shared so that other students in our class can see them. And then it also gives you the option, which is also very important, is that the administrator or teacher must approve the review before it's shared. So you have to read a student's review before it's posted. That's a great way to check for their comprehension and also, just reinforce those digital literacy skills if needed. Then you can make book trailers and author interviews available. That'll just help build your community of readers. And then, yes, I do want my students to be able to send recommendations to other students in our class. So then next you would click Save Group. Okay, so next, we are going to look at how to add our students. So there's several different options that Biblionasium gives you. So one is that you can add a new student. If you click on that, it allows the teacher to import or input students' information manually. I think this would only be a good idea is if you're using it with a very small group of students or if you have a new student in the middle of the school year. The other option is bulk upload. So you can select that, and then that uses either a CSV file or Excel file. Then it will give you explicit directions for how to set up and import the file. Personally, I would suggest using an Excel file because that will most likely be the easiest one for you to work with. And here on this page, it does give you the instructions for being able to do each one of those, and it's super user-friendly. And then you would just click Upload. Either way you choose to create your student accounts, if you leave the username and password fields blank, then Biblionasium will generate the usernames and passwords for you. While this is a great time-saving option, it is one more thing for your students to have to remember. I would suggest taking a few minutes to add your students' personalized logins from the district. You could do that if you had an Excel file already created and you could copy and paste their username and passwords. I would suggest using the ones that are their Ready Hub or iStation logins because then that way they already know it. And again, it's one less thing that they have to remember. Another feature on this page that I really like is you can do Add New Educator. So you could add maybe a partner teacher or somebody else on the I team. You could also include the school librarian if you wanted them to be able to help track your students' progress as well. Okay. Next, we're going to look at some of the other features available to teachers. So in order to navigate to those, we're going to go back to the home screen. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is challenges. Okay, you can find that by clicking on the left-hand side. I love this feature because it really helps students set goals, and you can model how to do that. So if you click on Start a New Challenge, you can select all groups. So if you had multiple different classes, right now you only see one of mine because that's the only one that I have students in. Okay, you can name the challenge, you can give it a fun title, and then there's lots of different suggestions that it'll give you as to different types of challenges. You can do one like based on the number of minutes. Oh, sorry, it's just jumping around right there. Okay, so you can do one based on the number of minutes, the number of pages students are reading, the category or genre of books, and then you can also add a deadline and then save it. And one thing that I skipped, but if you select like one of your classes, you can select certain students within your class just to participate in that challenge. And that's a great way to differentiate for your students. So for example, you could use it with different eye time groups, kids of different reading levels. You could do it by interest or use it for novel studies. I mean, pretty much the possibilities are endless here. And then Biblionasium makes it super easy to run a report. So if you just click on reports, you can look at the most popular books that your kids are reading, how they're doing on completing their challenges, individual ones that kind of just tracks, what they logged on their reading log. Then you can also, like I said, kind of track those challenges, which will be a great way to help continue your kids reaching their goals. One of the other features that I really like is this Connect Parents tab that's down here at the bottom. So if you select that, you can click on the class that you would like to. Okay. What you're able to do is connect with parents. So by inviting parents to join their kids' class, they can see their child's reading history, reading logs, their favorite books, reading preferences, book reviews, and more. And so what you can do is you can send emails by through previously entered emails whenever you uploaded your students to the program, or you can enter emails at the time. The third option is that you can print letters to send home. So it's just a great way to kind of get parents plugged in and, interested in seeing what their kids are reading so that hopefully they could talk about it. Okay, so then we're going to go back to our home screen, and in the top corner, what you'll see is where it says notifications, and it kind of has this blinking light. So that's letting me know that I have notifications or student reviews to look at. So once I click on that, it tells me I have 2 reviews to look at that students have posted that need my approval. So by clicking on them, then I can see their reviews down here, and I can read what they wrote. One thing that I really do like is that I can message students, and so you're able to give them very personalized feedback that only they can see. So you can be as specific and as critical as you would like to. Maybe you notice something that they did that was outstanding or something that they need to work on, and it sends it directly and privately to the student. So I can read it then, and then what I can do is if I click select and then hit publish, now the other students in my class are able to see it. So far, do I have any questions on the teacher side of Biblionasium? So each time I kind of look and play around with Biblionasium, I fall a little bit more in love with it, especially if I were still in the classroom. But I'm super excited to be able to use it with my students here. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how students view and use Biblionasium. Like I said, it is very similar to the teacher's login, but they have slightly less options. So again, students would go to log in with Biblionasium, and they would use the blue kind of phone, iPad looking thing and put in their username and password. and then click Login. Okay, so it does again give you that option to show hints, or they can not look at those either. They do get to change their avatar if they would like. One thing I like about that is because Biblionasium is a closed platform, they're not able to upload their own, so they just have to choose from one of the ones selected, which saves you some time there and eliminates some distractions as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. Okay, so what I can see here is, like, for example, where it says my messages. And so I can read what the teacher, which was me, I sent to my fake student and said, this was an excellent review. I'm so impressed with the vocabulary that you used. And kids can either delete them or save it. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is my books. And this feature, I didn't highlight it on the teacher one because I knew I was going to be talking about it here, but it works the exact same way as the student one. So this is my bookshelf. So this is what all of my fake student, Eric Carl, has read. So what you can do is, let's say if there's a book that a student would like to read, they can type it in here, search for it, and click go. Okay, so then it comes up with all the different options, and the students just would have to select the appropriate one. So there's the one that I would like. By clicking on it, what I can do is I can add it to my bookshelf. And then that gives me several different options. So it could be that I am reading it right now. I want to read it. I have read it, or we own this book. With this one for today, I am going to add it to my bookshelf because I would like to read it. Okay. Then next, so now if I go back to my bookshelf, then I am able to see it. And I did have a question. Somebody was asking if you can search by author. And yes, you are able to search by author by typing it into that search box up at the top. Okay. So let's say I'm looking for another book because I heard another student talking about it and I might want to check it out. So I'm going to get some more information about it. So I'm going to search for Becoming Naomi Leon. So here it is. I'm going to click on my title. And then when I look down here, I can see that somebody else in my class has read it. So Pam M said that, she rated it 4 out of 5 stars. It's one of the best that she's read. And then she left a review. So that kind of just helps encourage your community of readers. You can encourage kids, when they're searching for a book, to see if other students have said anything about it. So it's just kind of a great way, again, to continue to build that community. And then it's also a great way from the teacher's standpoint is that you can connect it to digital citizenship by teaching students how to write recommendations without giving away the whole story and using appropriate vocabulary and all of those things that we want our students doing every day. Okay. Then if, let's say, I did decide to read it, I added it to my bookshelf and I said, I have read it. Then the next thing I can do is I can select a friend from my class, like Laura N, and said, this book made me think of you. And then it'll send the message to her, and it'll pop up in her notifications. And that was one where I was talking about where eventually, if you wanted to open it up to where kids can write themselves while they are recommending it, you can do that. But again, kind of the problem is teachers are not able to monitor what kids are saying. And just depending on your group of students, that may work for you and it may not. Okay, So the next thing that we'll do is we'll look at how to kind of sort your bookshelf. So what you can do is you can click on want to read it, and it'll show the 2 books that I would like to read. If I clicked finish books, it shows all the ones that I read. So it's kind of just a great way to track there as well. The next thing that we're going to look at is how students can actually leave a review. So I'm going to look for the one and only Ivan. So after searching for it, I can find my book. I'm going to add it to my shelf. Say I have read it. And then I would like to leave a review on it. So that's where students can select, how many stars, if it's one of their favorites, their opinion. This is kind of nice because it just gives a quick snapshot and kind of starts their thinking as to how they felt about the book. And then what I really like is when other students look at it, they can see why they would like this book. And so kids kind of have to match up like genres in order to make this recommendation. Okay, and then students would type in their review here, and then at the end they would click save. That's when it goes to the teacher, and then the teacher can review it and post it so that it can become public. The final thing I really like about this bookshelf is that the teacher has the same options in their portal. So let's say you're modeling for students, you're reading and what you're enjoying. And so you're able to leave reviews and make recommendations for students that they can see. So it just helps build that community of readers by having that really good teacher example. So the next thing we're going to look at is my group. If students click on that, then they are able to see all of the students in their class, all of the books that they've read, books that the teacher has added to their bookshelf, as well as all of the reviews of other students in their class. So if they click on students, if they click on an individual student, then they can see their bookshelf and what they have read. And then they can also see any book reviews. Sadly, Laura N has not completed any. But if we go back, and we can also click on reviews and we can see what other students have left, including the student whose account you're in. You can also see, they can see theirs as well. The next option on the left side is My Friends. And this is just another way besides my group to kind of see the kids in their class. And again, it gives you the same options. Another thing that they can do is click on Friends. With My Friends, through this, by adding their own friends, they can only do this with parent permission, and they can only connect with other students who have a Biblionasium account. So for example, they could connect with students from another class. That would be a great way to build that community of readers if you are having that parental involvement piece as well. The next portion we're going to look at, I know a lot of teachers who use paper reading logs might be really excited about keeping a digital one. So we're going to take a look here. Okay, so in order to add a book to your reading log, you would add to my reading log, and it already puts the date in for them. They can go back and edit that if needed. They can select a book from their shelf. It does have to be on their bookshelf first in order for them to add it to their log. Then they can add the number of pages and the number of minutes. So let's say we read 20 pages and that took us 30 minutes. What I really like is here, it also gives students the option to leave a comment. So that way, you can make that a requirement so that they're really having to think and analyze about what they just read. And it also gives them the option to say that they finished this book and then click save. One other thing that I did kind of skip over is, now I'm not seeing it. Oh, so when they first go to their reading log is they can select a book from their shelf or select other reading material. I think this is so important because we don't want our kids being just limited to books or just tracking the books that they've read if they're reading other print materials. So for example, it has a magazine or a newspaper, or they can select other, and then that way they can track anything and everything that they are reading. We want our students to know that reading is reading, whether it's a newspaper, a magazine article, or an actual book. Okay, students would save that information, click save, and then it would be added to their reading log. And then again, this is one other fun thing that I was going to touch on next is on this left side, it does say My Awards, and students can go there. They earn different awards for different things in Biblionasium. So for example, we just received an award for logging our first book. We had received one for recommending a book to another student, and then also for writing our first review. And students are able to track those by clicking on My Awards on the left-hand side. And this is also an option for teachers to track as well through the reports. So you can see the awards that they've earned, and then you can also see the remaining awards. There's ones for different genres, all different kinds of things that they can win awards for. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is challenges. And this is one of my my most favorite options in Biblionasium. Well, I can't say favorite because they're all my favorite. But what students can do is, yes, they can participate in challenges that teachers have set, but they can also start a new challenge. So for example, they could maybe decide, I want to read all of the Bluebonnet books myself. And they could go in and add that. It would also be a great challenge for a teacher to start, or the librarian. But anyways, so they could do that. Or maybe they want to challenge themselves to read a certain number of books or a certain number of minutes or pages. And so students can set their own goals just to increase that accountability there, so that hopefully they are more likely to reach those goals because they were involved in creating it. Okay, so that's really all I have here for you as far as, the student features of Biblionasium. So I guess my next question for you is, what are some ways that you could implement Biblionasium in your classroom? So like I said, I'm going to start using Biblionasium as a just kind of a tool and resource to help facilitate and really launch my reading club for fifth grade. And I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to talk to them on not this Friday, but next Friday about it. Okay. So if there's any questions that you have over Biblionasium, go ahead and type them in the chat box, and I'll go back and look for any questions that you may have asked during the webinar, and I'll answer those. Oh, it looks like Rochelle has a question. Excellent. Oh, that's a good one. Can you create your own badges? Unfortunately, at this time, I haven't stumbled upon that. I'd have to play around with it a little bit more, but I don't think so. I'm hoping that's something that they could possibly work towards. Maybe we can send them a tweet and see if they have something to say about that. But that would be great to connect to those challenges so that they could earn the badge specifically for that challenge. You could always do paper ones in your classroom. I know it's not the same as being on the computer, but it would be something to kind of just tie those two things together. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us today and learning about Biblionasium. If you have any questions over Biblionasium or anything techie, please send me a tweet or an email. My contact info is up on the screen now. So the last thing we need from you is, in order to obtain your CPE credit for watching and participating in today's webinar, please click on the link that Lucy is posting now. And again, thank you so much for joining us.